If you're looking to learn about rain gardens, then check out the new book, The Modern Rain Garden, 2nd edition, Scrape, Shape and Plant, which is available at avesistormwater.com.
I mean, aren't they just the ultimate healer?
I like that.
Right? So many times people will say that I have bad soil. You don't have bad soil, your soil is lifeless and dehydrated. So you need to heal that with water, plants, and time. And that's what the rain garden does.
Not T-H-Y-M-E.
No, T-I-M-E.
Terrible rain garden plants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only on the driest of dry would T-H-Y-M-E work.
Maybe on the upper end.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So you wrote a book about rain gardens.
Yep. 2nd edition's coming out soon, which you wrote the foreword for. Yeah.
What made you ask me to write the foreword? I've been curious forever.
Yeah, I read a lot of books, and a lot of those books have forewords, and I Googled who would write a foreword, what is a foreword for, and you kind of hit all the criteria for that. And I remember when we met because I had reached out to you years ago because, 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, I would be telling everybody about my big plans about I'm going to start a rain garden building company, and they say, oh, well, you should, you should meet Sean James. You know Sean? And enough people tell you that, and you're like, all right, well, I guess I should meet Sean. And yeah, and I kind of consider myself the tip of the spear in the rain garden world, but I consider you somebody who built the spear. If that makes sense, yeah.
It does, and I can say publicly we're doing this.
Yeah.
I'm super honored that you asked.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. The list of people that I was considering was very, very short, but it was in reality the list was only one person, and I thought that it was something that you from anybody who knows Sean knows the amount of work that he puts into what he does, right? This isn't with Sean. There's no differentiation between work and life. His life is his work. So I thought that you deserve the opportunity to write that and put your name on it because you've been a big influence of mine, and we can talk about another story where you had an influence on me in the rain garden world, and specifically in the non-amendment scrape, shape, and plant philosophy. It was, and I don't know if you remember this, but it was when we were building a rain garden with an environmental group at my house up on the Hamilton Mountain, and you had come the day before, and I was talking about how all this soil is going to be excavated, and I got 4 yards of soil coming, and we're going to add all this amendment, and you were saying you may not need to do that. You might want to reconsider not doing that, but you didn't try to convince me otherwise. You did it in your very Sean way, where it was, might not want to do that, but I'm going to let you do that if you want to do that.
Pushing never helps.
Yeah, and I remember in that moment thinking it was a little bit of internal turmoil for me because I had heard whispers of the damages that tilling and breaking soil structure can do, and how that might not be the play. And to hear you say that, who you're somebody that I know and I trust, and I know that you know. So for me, it's like, well, if he's saying that, and I can't articulate why he's wrong, then that's on me to go and explore that. And if he is wrong, then I'll tell him why he's wrong, but I haven't been able to tell you why you were wrong because you weren't.
It is a good way for people to think, and you addressed it in your book. You can see the evolution of your thought process
Right.
in the book, which I really like. There's also the issue of the fact that most of our plants are grown in soilless mix, and we live in an area that has a lot of clay, and that fills up with water for a few days. That soilless mix is going to putrefy, and that produces poisons that kill your plants. It's what we do is not simple. It is complex, but it's absolutely worth doing, and there are more and more people doing it, which makes me happy. The public is, I think, catching on. What made you want to write a book about it?
It was really having a resource for people that they could use. It was something that was written that I wish was written when I started. Because when I started, there wasn't a whole lot of rain garden knowledge out there, save for university extension programs, right?
Yeah.
You know, there was things happening in Minnesota, in the the Chesapeake Bay area of Delaware, but there was nothing really that tried to break down rain garden ideology overall. It was 3-4 pages of a technical document saying this is how you build a rain garden.
Not very user friendly.
No, and I wanted to have a larger discussion of what is a rain garden? Why is this necessary? How does it work? And if you were to read this book, I'm not trying to teach people how to build one rain garden. I'm trying to give people the tools to build whatever kind of rain garden using the scrape shaping method that they need for their project.
You'll be interested to know I'm currently working with the Canadian Standards Association, the CSA,
Yeah.
to develop national rain
Nice.
garden guidelines. Getting it to be not too technical is proving to be a challenge.
Yes. I
Yeah.
actually had a question I wanted to ask you about that, because I know you were involved in Elmview Drive?
Elmview Drive Yes.
Elmview
for
Drive.
Credit Valley Conservation.
So
That was one of our early projects.
that's what I mean. Take me through your mindset when you are approached with that project. Where do you go with that? Because that was the early days.
So, my strength is I'm freaky good with plants. So, when I was brought in, it's not a regular rain garden. It's a bioretention garden, which for the viewers at home, it's an engineered rain garden. It's usually very deep. It does have amended soil, 90% sand, 10% compost, and this one was several long cells like that. And why was I brought in? Because it was ugly. It was just ugly, and everybody hated it. And the plants were dying, and so they asked me to put together a better design.
So it was already planted,
yeah,
and those plantings more or less failed for one reason or another, even
Multiple
if they
reasons.
aesthetically failed.
yeah.
Interesting.
And part of that was because it wasn't a landscaper who built it. The people who had the project to do the road, the contract to do the road, it was part of that contract.
Right. Right.
So I kind of don't blame them, because as you say, the information wasn't out there.
Yeah.
Now it is. So if they did it like that now, I would blame them. Because you didn't read his book.
But
Yeah.
you in that answer, you made a really important distinction between a bioengineered, infiltration facility versus a rain garden.
Yes.
And I find, I don't know if you found this, but I find there are people who they can tend to say, oh well, I need a bioengineered infiltration facility for my home, but you don't.
No. I the opposite, I think. By the way, you can probably see it raining. We're inside shooting this because it's raining outside, which I think is ironically cool. For the homeowner, I think that it doesn't need to be rocket science. There's a lot of very hard and fast rules, and it drives me. How big should you make a rain garden? Well, 20% of the surface. Make it as big as you can. In most places, it's tough to fit a rain garden in. So you just do what you can do. Can you do 20%? Great. Can you not? Do what you can. You catch the raindrops you catch. Which brings me to my next question. In your view, LID, low impact development, another engineering term that I don't love, rainscaping.
Yeah.
Is it just about rain gardens, or is there more?
There's definitely more. There's definitely more, but they are all rooted around the same thing, and that's the infiltration of rainwater, right? You have permeable pavements, you have green roofs, you have physical storage in terms of cisterns, barrels, things like that.
Mhm.
You have bioswales, which are kind of just more or less long, linear rain gardens. But I have, and when I started, the service offerings was all of those things plus, 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 and then it just, got whittled down to what if I just do rain gardens? What if I create a situation where I specialize in one thing so much that when people go and try to find out who, how, what about the rain gardens, there's a laser beam to me.
Yeah.
And that, it was,
Specializing niche is the way to go.
yeah,
I'm just saying, native plants.
yeah,
And I like other plants, and I
Yeah.
use that. My own garden has other plants, but if you can be a specialist in something, then regardless of what the economy does, you're the go-to person.
yeah.
But you still use things like rain barrels in your landscapes.
I do. I consider those, I call them accessory or auxiliary pieces, where a lot of times a rain barrel in itself, if we're just talking about a standard 200-liter rain barrel, that is not, how should I say this? It's very unlikely that in itself is going to be a realistic solution.
Yeah.
It can be a very welcome addition to a larger rainscaping scheme, but on its own, something like that it needs more support, because once the rain barrel is full and is overflowing,
Yeah.
how is the landscape dealing with the water?
People are always looking for one solution.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of my lawn. What ground cover should I use? No.
Yeah.
You want a variety of ground covers, because if you use a bunch of things together or a bunch of solutions together, then it's less likely to fail. It's stronger. It's more resilient.
Yes.
Variety equals resilience.
That's
So
right.
that's I think that's something important to get across to folks.
Yeah.
Would you say that anyone can have a rain garden?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's few cases where rain garden is probably not applicable, and most of the time the reason for a rain garden not being applicable is physical space constraints, where there may be foundations too close, something like that. But to your point earlier, how much space do you have? Do you have enough space on the landscape to fit something 20% of the drainage area? Well, no, I have enough space for 5%. Okay, well then do it 5%.
5%.
Yeah, and then especially if you have a realistic overflow option,
Mhm.
that's, you're laughing.
No, wait. What do you mean by that?
So the overflow, and when I say that, the rain gardens that we build are typically earthen. They are made of earth. There's not a whole lot of other auxiliary components to them. So when I say an overflow or an outlet, it's really just a space that's lower than the surrounding landscape that water can leave through, right? So if the rain garden is full and still receiving water, rather than backing up to the source, water can exit on its path.
That's one of the most important things. I wanted to be sure to ask you that,
Yeah,
because it's one of the most important things that you say and say well, because
Right.
it's something a lot of people miss. Where's it going to go?
yeah,
That and your repeated message about how rain barrel outflows aren't big enough.
yeah.
Um,
I see it all the time.
Yeah, it's
see it all the
this versus this.
Yeah, because if you think about it, a standard downspout nowadays is 3 inches by 3 inches square, but the rain barrel overflow hose is 1.5 inches round. So you are reducing the water moving ability quite substantially, and that a lot of times is why you see water splashing out of the rain barrel. It's not because water's getting in the barrel too quickly. It's because water can't exit quickly enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that we're getting good uptake from the public?
Oh, it's turned around. I remember when I first started. I mean, this is a funny story, but my first year I had one customer, and it wasn't even a rain garden build. I mean, I had to, scratch and claw to get people to build rain gardens, and now it's late May, and I'm booking into October, and I do rain
That's
gardens.
That's a really good sign.
It is. It is.
I think I see it in I mean, we do rain gardens as well, but I see it in our eco side of things as well.
Yeah.
The demand is there,
Yeah.
which is delicious.
And it's coming from all sides, because I'm sure you've seen, being a plantsman yourself, the availability of native plants in our area has skyrocketed recently, not only from small independent growers, but also from community groups who take it upon themselves to grow plants and sell plants to each other.
Yep.
Which
I
is
was
great.
I was at the North American Native Plant Society sale at the Toronto Botanic Gardens, and then I went up to the Guelph Master Gardeners plant sale, and they're all over the place. And I use social media to promote everybody's sales.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
Yeah.
And next weekend is the Guelph Nature Society plant sale, and there's gems at each one.
Yeah.
Now, I've been doing this for a while, so it's like got it. Ginseng.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, no, it's and it's packed. Like it's
Yeah, they sell out quickly. Like I'm from Hamilton.
combat.
And down there, groups will put on sales, and they'll be like, okay, we're here selling from 10 to 4, and then noon comes around, and they're like, well, we're sold out. So it's,
Yeah.
but it has to be that way. It's a culture. It's a cultural shift of people looking at their landscape and saying, I care about how I use my land. I care about the plants, animals, insects, the life that's happening in my landscape. And we were kind of alluding to this before, but it's not really about building a garden. It's about creating an ecosystem. And within that, you can house rain gardens, and they can help bolster the ecosystem.
We're seeing it in people who are getting into the profession as well. They're getting in because they want to fix things. Homeowners are going, how can we use our yard for more than just throwing a stick to the dog? And I think one of the things that we often miss is that it's got to be beautiful. We need people to uptake these ideas. It's got to be pretty. If it isn't pretty, people won't buy in.
Yeah.
I drove past a native garden the other day that really just looked uninhabited. It looked like there was no one living at the house, and that's not spectacular.
Yeah. To that point, I think that was one of my early struggles. Was I didn't care about that, because I come from the school of ecology, where we don't look at this plant and say, do we like the way it looks? That's not even considered. We're only looking at the plant in terms of, what does it look like, so I can identify, is it this one, or this one? We're not looking at what does it look like, saying, do I like it?
Yeah.
Right? But that is important, and that is part of it. And my whole knowledge base around plants was rocked when I met you, because I didn't know, honestly, this sounds silly, but I didn't know that people knew Latin names for plants the way that you did.
People don't.
Yeah,
That's kind of weird.
I mean, that is fair. That is fair. But I remember walking through your garden when you lived at Woodlawn. Woodward. And it was this Latin name, that Latin name, this Latin name. And I remember being like, whoa, I don't know any of this. But there are people out there who do know this, which means that it's learnable.
It's a thing.
Yeah. And people often say, oh,
Baby step.
Yeah.
You don't want to. You're not going to learn the whole thing.
I started learning one plant a day.
That's great. It's more than most people do, and more than a lot of people in our profession do.
Yeah.
But that's changing too. There's a lot more people in our world. Landscape Ontario has a whole environmental projects committee again, which is great.
Yeah.
The people on the board there, several of them are pushing pushing the elimination of sale of invasive species, pushing reduction of salt and reduction of water use in the landscape. There's a lot of good being done, which is cool. And I think social media gets part of the blame for that, because a lot of those people I now know have been around for a while and have been doing that, but quietly.
Right.
But every time you encounter someone through social media, or at a trade show or anything, and they go, "Really, you're doing that too?" Then that gives us permission to be more open about it, to trumpet about what we do.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
Canadian, we sit quietly in the corner and wait for people to notice us.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm speaking next week at the Brooklyn Whitby Horticultural Society,
Sure.
and they meet in the church. Most horticultural societies meet in the church.
Yep.
And you speak in the basement. The
Yeah.
good sound system upstairs at this
Yeah.
church.
Right.
So you stand at the pulpit. It's really weird.
Wow.
And so I used the word proselytize. Seemed like the right place, certainly
Okay.
the right time. Go out
Yeah.
and proselytize about gardening.
Yes.
And how good it
Be evangelical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which your book does well, I think, and are sales good?
Yeah, the first one sold well. I haven't released the second one yet. It's coming. It's coming. But the first one sold well. My goal with that one was I used it to meet people. Like there are some landscape designers that I really look up to in the United States that I just sent them the book.
Nice.
And I said, hey,
Yeah.
like
What'd
let
you
me
think?
know an address to send
Yeah.
it to, and I'll send it to you. And even if they didn't give me any thoughts on it, even if they didn't say this is good or this is bad, at least now they know me. And I wasn't.
That's a great way to build a network. It really is.
was, and it wasn't. There's a difference between reaching out and saying, "Hey, Sean, I can do this for you. You let me know what you need. I'll do that for you." There's a difference between that and saying, "Hey, here's this thing that I wrote. Let me send it to you, and
Yeah.
you can check it out."
That's true.
Right? Like
That's
and for young people, it's you have to find a way if you're looking to meet other people or to be mentored. Show initiative beyond baseline. Hi, my name is. Right? It has to be. Here's something that I've produced. Would something like this work for you?
Mhm.
Or what like? Do you think this can help you at all? Or
Yeah,
I see
and
that
that's
you're.
not being pushy too. That's a good way to
Yeah.
get the information out there.
Yeah.
To wrap things up, because actually my barn's leaking a little bit and I've got water dribbling on me.
I noticed.
No, you're in the good. You're in the tarp pit.
Yeah.
Where can people get the book? The book, which is called.
It's the Modern Rain Garden, second edition, Scrape, Shape, and Plant. It will be available through Amazon, and it will be available through my personal website, avesistormwater.com. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. I'm also going to offer it wholesale to community groups as well, because I buy them in bulk. So if they want to buy bulk and resell them to their constituents, I'll offer that as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, and sharing information. I'm a big fan of the old phrase, "A rising tide raises all boats," and sharing information feels good, and it helps us all be better. And you're doing it well, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.